Welcome back to the Gleam fishing channel. We're back on the boat today, and it's a reasonable day in Nelson, but overcast, but we haven't had the rain that was planned. I'm fortunate enough to have Finn Horder here, local fisherman, and welcome, Finn.
Thank you.
I just sort of thought we're going to have a bit of a talk about you, maybe your background. Feel free to talk about some of your family's background. Obviously, the methods of fishing. So we're going to talk a little bit about maybe do a bit of a deep dive in tuna fishing. I understand you've done some albacore trolling and some surface longlining. So we'll talk about that throughout this podcast. So yeah, over to you. Who are you, Finn, and what's your background?
A local Nelson fishing family. My father was a fisherman, and my brother-in-law too. They did many years of it. I didn't start fishing until later in life. I did an apprenticeship as an automotive engineer out at just south of Nelson at a Caltex garage. Then I went travelling overseas. Just before I went travelling overseas, I did a stint on a Norwegian trawler. We were doing orange roughy.
Oh, that would have been interesting, like over in Norway or
No,
here in
no,
New
here in
Zealand.
New Zealand. It was one of the Norwegian boats over here, the John Longva,
Oh, okay, well, that's going back a while. Very interesting. I'm sure.
1990.
A lot of our viewers would be interested in that. That's probably another story. I guess that was back when New Zealand didn't catch all of their fish, wasn't it? Largely.
They did well. We caught well. I was just in the factory. I wasn't on the deck.
Yep.
Then I left that and went over to England, and we ended up travelling around. I met my girlfriend over there. She's a Kiwi. We ended up teaching English over in Taiwan for a few years. That's how we saved money for our first house. Then what else I do? It's hard to remember. It's a long time ago. That 1997 was the first bit of commercial fishing I went back into. That was surface longlining on the Karika with Mike Wells, and I really enjoyed that. That's real fishing, that's for sure. You get a big tuna on a fight line.
Yep.
That's quite exciting.
So, what's the day in the life like for a surface longline? So, just for the viewers that don't understand? So, surface longlining, how does that work? What's the gear configuration? What's the day in the life for a surface longline tuna fisherman?
Setting the gear with a float out the back, and you've got your line going out the back, and you're clipping on baited traces, and then you've got floats every now and then. There's a beeper that tells you when to put a float on. Then you put on a number of hooks again, and then another float, and so it's suspended in the water. It's actually sort of really mid-water fishing, really, catching pelagic species, and we were aiming for big eye tuna at that time. Yep. We actually went around to Western Australia and did that, and fishing out of Geraldton. Yep. So we were also getting broadbill swordfish and the big eye.
A few of the recreational fishermen will know what I see there's a bit of a developing trend for rec fishers to be catching the old broadbill. Seem they're quite a large species.
I think it's quite a healthy fishery.
Absolutely, and largely probably an unknown fishery, isn't it? There's something unique about the old broadbill where they're down in their 1,000 metres or whatever it is, and then at night they come up. Is that correct, or have I got that wrong?
I think so. I wasn't a skipper, just a crew doing my thing at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So how so many fish a day, or what was an average sort of a day, or a good day or a bad day on a surface longliner when you were there? Was it? And I assume there's a bit of marlin, there's a bit of tuna, there's a bit of moonfish, there's a few different species. I assume.
There was. Yep.
Yeah.
I guess it's a long time ago to remember back that. There was you had your days, of course, good and bad sets, like all fishing. Yep. A good day with the big eye, probably 30 fish, 40 fish.
Yep.
It's quite a lot of cutting.
Yeah.
I had my share, bit of cutting as well. We all did our bit.
Yep.
The most exciting thing was having them on a fight line. The boat comes to a stop, and you're easing it in carefully, and then it will just go the other way, and a 60 or 70 kilo fish will just go the other way. You've got to let it go.
Yeah.
Or you'll go with it. So you're really careful about how you grab the line and not wrap your hands around them ever.
Yep.
It was quite amazing.
Fun. No, absolutely. That sounds amazing. I never did the surface longlining. Obviously, did some other tuna methods. So what are you doing now, Finn?
I've just done my 20th season Albacore trolling, and I start in December, early December.
So trolling. So just for our viewers, what is that? What is that?
We're the fishing vessels that sit in the port with our poles up, but when we go to sea, we put the poles out, and trailing behind those poles is, in my case, only 8 lures. Some people have up to 15 or 20 even.
So I see you've bought some. So this is this what the commercial boys use for trolling for albacore tuna?
So this is commonly known as a hex head with a skirt on it, and then a barbless hook crimped onto some monofilament. And we don't need to have a barb because they bite and dive. And when they dive, there's a constant pressure on. So you pull them in, also never wrapping your fingers around the line because another bigger fish, such as a shark, can take it. And again, it would pull you into the sea. And land it on board and onto a de-hooker, which is just a peg. Pull the hook up to that and pull it around that and land it into a slurry of ice. And we don't have to cut the fish or do anything with it other than chill it as fast as possible and then stack it in ice later. And you can have some pretty exciting days doing that. They can be going for it all day, or just in the morning, or just the afternoon. The timing, you just got to be very patient. Every season's different.
You were saying before that you had a big day, you had a big day by yourself. Well, give us a little bit of information about that on the tuna.
We were away by ourselves in an area, and I did 380 fish. They were all about 10 to 12 kg fish. So that was over nearly 4 tons actually.
Wow.
And I know when I was with my parents, they'd had a 5-ton day also. So I think they're a bit like squid fishing. Apparently that's like that too. It's all on or all off sometimes, yeah. But if you just get it steady, if you wake up on them, because when we stop at night out at sea, we're 30 miles out, so you can't anchor, it's too deep. You just stop and drift. And sometimes, well, quite often, we're within a fleet. We're working together. There's 5 or 6 boats, or even 20. So if you're the lucky one that wakes up on them and just get that steady catch straight from the morning right through, you can tend to stay on them and get them right through to the end of the day. It has a lull, and then it speeds up again. And some years you don't get much of an evening bite, and some years you do.
I remember when we did it, we used to have, it appeared, and I don't know the science behind it, I was never a great albacore tuna fisherman, but did it for a few years, but they seemed to sit under boats at night. Yes. So what we used to do was the guys that slept in, we would get up first and then basically troll with our lines very, very close to them, trying to catch the tuna, basically stealing the tuna from them or from underneath them. They're still in bed, and we're mowing into their tuna. Did you ever experience that?
Yes. We call them campers or sleepers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you when you start off in the morning, you want to be throwing your lines out straight away. So as soon as you put the boat into gear and it starts moving, you'll see them on the echo sounder. So first thing in the morning when I wake up, I start the engine, turn deck lights on to help keep the squid or krill that's hanging around as well. You've got an all-round light white going all night, and that attracts krill often and squid and other little fish. So that's what the tuna are eating, of course. They never stop eating, apparently.
Yep.
So they like to hang around logs too, or whales, of course, and the boat's just like a big whale to them.
Yep.
So yes, throw the lines out straight away, and you'll get your own campers. And if you see somebody who has slept in, and that does happen occasionally, move over to them and go around them.
Yeah.
And you might get some of their campers.
Yeah, the tricks and trades of a tuna fisherman, eh? Really. So what's the average day like? So I know that a lot of guys love the albacore fishing because it's the closest thing to recreational fishing. You know, it's one fish, one line, one lure, and as you said, you have 8 lines trolling behind the boat.
Yes.
And you pull them in manually by hand, so it's very much
one at a time.
One at a time, yeah. So, and it's a fully sustainable fishery. I think the albacore fishery is MSC sustainably certified now.
It is, yes, has been for a long time now.
Yeah, so that's something that's definitely worth noting and people should be proud of. But what's the day in a life? So what time do you get up? What time do you go to bed? What would happen on an average day trolling for albacore tuna in New Zealand?
You get up just before light. So at the beginning of the season, we're getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and then it might be getting light about 5. So you want to be having the engine running and your lines into the water just on that daylight, that change of light. Like a lot of fishing, change of light is a period of biting or fish movement. So you're doing that. You've got your radio on, your radar going. So you're looking for other boats, of course, because they're around. And then you're sort of settling in to a movement, pulling in fish straight away, hopefully, and maybe moving back to where you were getting fish. A lot of upwellings are where the fish congregate because it's where the feed is congregated to. So they'll be around those sort of areas that we know quite well now. With a plotter, you can mark where you've been catching fish, and so you might move back to where that area is, and the fish are still there.
Yep. So what speed are you trolling at normally? What are they like?
If you've got bigger fish, you might go slower because you don't want to lose them off that hook.
Yeah.
4.5 knots, up to 5.5, even 6.5.
Yep.
So yeah, we would do that in the morning, first thing, and then we'd just keep going all day because you get bits and pieces, ones and twos, and they all add up. Everyone counts. And then you might get a better afternoon, so you make sure you're in that area for the afternoon. Or if it's a quiet afternoon, you might use that time to go and look elsewhere. So you might go 3 or 4 or 6 miles out, or an hour away, looking, and then an hour back again on another track. And you often find fish doing that. So you carry on into the evening, right through to the dark. So
Long day.
Long day, yeah.
Yep.
So because it's a long day, especially at first, you might get your morning bite, and then one of us might be going to sleep at 9 in the morning, having an hour's kip, and then the crew will take over for that. If you've got a crew that's able to, and you certainly make sure you teach them all the ins and outs of running a boat for doing that. And then they have a sleep as well. But then when the days are shorter, it's not so bad at all later on because it goes right through till April. Yeah.
Yeah, gets a long season after a while, isn't it? Because some guys, as you said, will start December. You see boats leave here sometimes before Christmas, head up to 90 Mile Beach, sometimes have an early run up there and
I'll
places.
leave here and do that.
Yeah, so you'll do that. So that makes it a long season, isn't it? From December through to April.
Yeah, 5.5 months I've done.
Yeah. So largely you're just following the biomass, aren't you? So you find it up the top of the North Island, and then ultimately it can end up right down, Hokitika Trench, right down the bottom of the South Island.
I've been to Milford.
Milford, yep.
Jackson's Bay a few times, and out of Open Bay Islands, Cook Canyon, all that area. Beautiful area.
So how do you track them? So basically they're a migratory species, and you don't have to give away any secrets. We're not competing here, but how do you know? So, they are actually the whole biomass, and there's waves that seem to come into our waters because they're not a New Zealand fish, they're a migratory species, and they just come in at the North Island, and maybe some come in down the bottom of the south, don't know, but they just generally head south. How do you keep in touch with the biomass? Because I guess that's the key. You want to be following the fish, not following the blank water, basically.
Yeah, they seem to come on the leading edge of hot water as the summer comes on. The hot water starts coming down the North Island, down into the South Island eventually. The tongues of it come up and across into Hokitika. They reckon the fish comes down the inside of the Great Barrier Reef and then across toward Hokitika and then splits up and goes north and south. Also comes down to the North Island, and some of it goes down to outside the Bay of Islands. I have been around there and caught fish first. I've done one trip right around the North Island to the top and down a bit, caught fish there okay. And then pretty soon we're back on the west coast of the North Island, landing fish into Onehunga in those days.
Yep.
Now we land fish into Raglan too. And then after a few weeks up there, a few trips up there, we end up down into usually Westport, but sometimes Golden Bay or Nelson we'll land fish.
Yep, awesome. So you spend quite a bit of time, I guess, between Westport and Greymouth. I assume that's probably the main Albacore grounds where majority of the boats are, isn't it?
You tend to get the fish there, obviously, but you tend to get good weather.
Yeah.
And we're mostly running 40 to 60 foot boats, and the weather's important that we can get out there and work in it.
Yeah. So talking about that, so Westport and Greymouth, obviously the elephant in the room is the bars, the bar harbours.
Yes.
So, and I know there'll be, we have fatalities, commercial and recreational vessels going into a bar harbour. Have you had any frights, any concerns, or is there anything you would say to people? Is there any techniques or things that really should be considered to cross a bar safely? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely respect the bars. Onehunga bar would probably be one of the worst. Never on an outgoing tide. I remember coming out of there one time, and I thought, well, I'm committed. You can't turn around and go back in. And it's quite a long period of coming out through these waves that are lifting. And I was on the Sharon in those days, a good boat, but she's still only 38 feet. I got out okay, but the boat behind me had a window pushed in, and they were okay, but we all decided never do that again. Yes, be careful. The Onehunga Bar, the Raglan Bar, the Westport Bar, and the Greymouth Bar, I've worked quite a lot. I've had a fright on the Greymouth Bar coming in. It was dark, pitch black. The swell wasn't too bad, but I remember we broached and we went hard astern and come right again, all right, and then moved in with the next wave and carried on in. But my tense moment, my knees were shaking a bit, and it made me respect them all. Yeah.
Yep.
And that was in a 52-footer.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a fisherman alive that's been over a bar and hasn't had some sort of a fright. And as you said, respect the bar, because I think some of us get a bit cavalier and a little bit, she'll be right, I've done this 1,000 times, I know what I'm doing. But it's so dynamic, eh? Like every set, every swell, every tidal flow is different, and it can throw different things at you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, the bars are you always an hour before high. I use swell map. Southwest swell with greymouth, not good. You just have to know those things and ask the locals always. Just take it slowly too. You don't go fast and through the bars, and don't let the boat get away on you.
Yeah.
And the commercial boats, we've got strong steering, good gear. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think particularly because we've got the tuna, the hoki fishery coming up down the west coast, and there'll be a lot of recreational fishermen heading down there to chase the bluefin tuna that follow the trawlers, the hoki trawlers down there. So I guess that's good advice to them, is to respect the bar, watch the bar. I mean, commercial fishermen are frightened by them, so if you're a recreational fisher with less experience, be very frightened and as you get that local knowledge.
Be very sure of the bars. Make sure you're batting down hatches when you're coming in. All those things that you should do. Yep. Anything loose, tied down.
Yep. No, absolutely. So you've had a few years at sea. Any particular times or moments that have, I don't know, of interest? You know, any events, anything you've seen, anything you've experienced, anything you've been through. You know, anything that viewers might find interesting that you want to talk about.
Love watching other vessels at sea. 20 years as a skipper. Just moments that come about. Running with bad weather into Milford Sound was one of the special moments. You get in there and all the waterfalls are going up the other way, and very beautiful. Coming across Cook Strait, or running back with a full load of fish is always a good feeling too.
Isn't it just?
Yeah.
Or closing that hatch, standing on the hatch to get it to close when it's full is
Never
fantastic.
actually quite done that. But
yeah, been fortunate a few times, but particularly with hoki and things like that. But yep.
Yeah, running past the spit back into Tasman Bay feels really good.
Yep.
I thought that was turned off.
Oh, that's the phone. That's all right.
All right, we'll turn it off.
Yep, absolutely. It catches the best of us, unfortunately, the old cell phone.
Don't they?
But that's what they're designed to. Oh. They're there to get your attention. So all good. So so running into Tasman Bay, around the spit. Yep. Anything else?
Yes, a silent night out at sea off the Hokitika Trench. Whales. There was about a pot of 5 at least. I could tell. Yeah. You could hear it must have been the male coming round the boat. It was pitch black, unfortunately. I couldn't see them, but I could hear the breathing.
Yeah.
Just really close. Came around and circled me, and then went back to his other members.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Absolutely, yes.
Sunfish you see quite often. Squid darting about on the deck lights at night. Yes, sharks cruising about. Marcos jumping. I had my thumb nearly taken off by a Marco. I remember meeting a crew in a pub, and he had the end of his thumb missing, and I didn't believe him. He said it was a Marco. Yeah. But it nearly happened to me too. Reaching over and lifting a tuna on, one just came up out of nowhere and went over nearby. Yeah,
I got to say, the years when we were doing the bluefin fishing, static with long lines or hand lines, and
I've never done that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was a different fishery altogether. And again, it's just you, pitch black, a couple lights on, and most of the tuna you caught between midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning. So normally I was the boy, the young fella out there chumming and burling all night, all by myself. And I remember, once or twice we hooked a Marco, and of course they would jump. And it's just the most frightening. Your heart would just be in your mouth because you're all by yourself. You're a bit timid, a bit scared. Your family are
They're
down
not friendly
sleeping,
looking, are they?
and they're not friendly, and their eyes glow and glare at you. And then when they jump, and I've had a few heart-stopping moments with those. They normally just close their mouth, break the line, and they've gone. But yeah, they're definitely a fierce thing for sure.
Had killer whales come up behind them at the old Moata I used to own, and a big one, just about as wide as the Moata, which is 5 feet, and quite a big fish. Yeah. And it's younger. It was teaching it how to take tuna off our lures. So we probably had about 3 or 4 of our tuna.
Yeah.
But worth it. It was amazing to see.
Yep.
That was on the east coast of the North Island on the Madden Banks.
Yep. Yeah, I used to enjoy too with the old when you'd be towing out in the bay here or anywhere, and there'd be pods of dolphins,
Yes.
not hectares, just your common dolphins, and they would all line up. They would come up to your propeller.
Oh yeah.
They'd be at the stern, and they'd come, and you'd see them. They'd get in the current, like the push of the prop, and they'd go flat out. Yeah, and they'd get in, and then they'd stop. They'd just absolutely stop swimming, and then they would shoot out like a water slide, and they would do that for hours and hours and hours playing, absolutely playing. Had a ball, they'd go. Get close to the propeller. I mean, obviously it's a little bit of Russian roulette for them, but we never got one. And they'd just come in, and you'd see them going flat out, trying to get in. They'd get within about probably half a metre of the propeller, and then stop, and you'd see them shoot out sideways and all sorts. And then another one would come in, and it'd be lined up. They'd be doing it all day long. They just used to love it, and that was great to watch.
Yeah. I've seen them darting in, not very often, but I've seen them darting in amongst the lures. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. No, absolutely incredible. And that's something that I guess we enjoy as fishermen. I mean, sometimes we get a hard time for interactions with a protected species, etc., and sometimes there are fatalities, there's no doubt about that. But the protected species seek us out. Like, we're a play toy for them. I'm sure we're a food source, and we're a play toy, and it's pretty, they just want to play with their mates sometimes, I think.
Yeah, well, thank God, there's not much reaction of protected species I've ever had, thank God.
Yeah.
But the amount of protein I've caught for an export for the country, I'm very proud of.
Absolutely, and I agree. I mean, without, farming, commercial fishing, growing, and all those things, what is there? What's largely, what's left to feed us?
That's right. We have to do it.
So, anything else that you like? Has there been a highlight in your time on the water? I mean, the thing working in there's the fishing industry, there's merchant, there's aquaculture, there's a lot of different careers. Generally, there's a lot of people just love boats and doing stuff on boats. What's been the highlight for you? Like, and I know fishing's, can be a tough job and a tough occupation, but why, people like ourselves I guess it's in our blood, it's almost a disease, you get passionate. Why would people do it?
Well, I was introduced to it by my parents. They had their sailing fishing vessel, Sunnyvar. Before that, they had the Kodako. We went to Tonga with them when I was 9. So I got a taste of the sea then. And I didn't go straight into it. I did that apprenticeship and I did other things first. And then I had a moment where I was unemployed and I asked Mike for a job crewing. So that got me into it. And then I got my skipper's ticket at 2005, so that's about 20 years ago. So I learnt the hunt. The hunt is an amazing thing to do. Having a good trip feels really good. And I like boats, yes, and I like the engineering, of course, and the whole thing, the challenge of the whole thing. Yeah. Making it pay, making it work, and it fed 2 children.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lifestyle, isn't it? It's an absolutely lifestyle choice.
Well, we all have choices, and I've stuck with this one now because, yes, I still like it, but you get qualified at it. I've got my Maritime Operator's Certificate and my New Zealand Offshore Master now, and a second DTE or MEC5, I think it is actually. Yep. So that has also got me into engineering on boats. I've done a small amount of that now, running engine rooms on a 37-metre trawler.
Cool.
And also on the Karika too, the 33-metre line boat.
Yep.
I was quite excited doing that. Yeah, it's quite a challenge.
Yep. So anything else? It's been awesome. And I think it's great to reminisce. We could probably talk for hours. To be fair, anything final that you'd like to talk or say in regards to your career or in the fishing industry? Any final thoughts for our viewers?
The future. I've just purchased a smaller vessel. I'm going to do some trawling with it.
Yep.
Trawling is regular catch to market and multi-species, and we've been doing it for about 100 years.
Yep.
I used to be unsure of it, but actually it's an okay thing. If you stay to the same areas, we've fished for that time. So we'll get flounder and gurnard and John Dory and those mixes of fish.
Yep.
So I'm going to do some of that, and I'll still do tuna, Albacore tuna, but it'll take some of the pressure off doing 5 months away. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yep.
Although it's a very exciting fishery, so I'll still do a bit of it.
Yeah.
And the prices, I think, should hold. I think they should come up, if not a bit more. We've got a good future.
Yep. Awesome. No, I agree. And the trawling like that gets a bit of a bad rap at times, but as the facts are the facts, right? Less than 3% of the New Zealand economic zone has been trawled, but 51% of our land mass has been modified by humans. So we're actually doing pretty well, and the impacts are a lot less than some people would have you believe, because I've spent many years trawling. So
I'm very pleased to see that the estuaries are being planted out around the edges, and because the impact of the land on the fishing coasts can be substantial.
Absolutely, we've got to look after it from the skyline to the seabed, don't we?
We do,
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, that's great. No, it's been great having you here, Finn, and
You're welcome.
hopefully you got something out of it as well. It's always good to have a bit of a chat about the good old days and a bit of reminiscing.
Yeah, no, it's been fun.
So no, thank you very much. So
You're welcome.
if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.